The temple is full of the scent of flowers as it forms around us. Sandalphon is playing with some of the Ishim. He holds out his hands and the fire sparks dance on them, forming complicated patterns and looking like illuminated DNA spirals. They build right up to the ceiling, then hold the pattern when the Archangel sees us and comes to greet us. As we pass the flickering lights, he tells us that this display is for our benefit, to remind us of the basic pattern of our being. We send a thank you thought to the Ishim, who promptly break ranks and swarm around us. It is the first time that we have had close contact with them, and it feels like being in the middle of a firework display. They cover our hands and heads until we look like living fireflies. Then, at a word from Sandalphon, they leave us and return to the altar. The tarot curtain forms across the door. Its stark moonlit landscape looks forbidding and cold. When it solidifies into life, we step through. For a moment, we feel our feet in the pool. Then we are walking into a thick, steamy jungle. Around us, the air is full of noise. The smell of rotting vegetation assails our noses. The earth feels like marsh ground, giving underneath us at each step. The trees, if they can be called such, look like gigantic ferns, and the growths that will one day evolve into the beautiful flowers we know are no more than thick, ugly knots of green, striped with rudimentary colour. This is Earth millions of years ago, raw, vigorous, changing and violent, with nothing to suggest that it will ever be any different. There is a sudden terrible screaming. From the safety of a cluster of giant ferns, we see an amazing spectacle. A giant lizard-like creature is fighting another of its kind. One is smaller and seems to be a female. There's no give and take in this age. If you are smaller and weaker, you die. We move hurriedly away and leave the combatants to their fight. There is no path to follow, so we push through the walls of living green that bar our way at every step. It begins to thin out, and we find ourselves in a fairly clear space. In front of us is a stone gate formed of two upright stones, with the third across the top, bearing the Hebrew letter Qoph. In front of this gate stands a creature. It takes us a while to see that it's a woman, short, squat, and black. Not the satin blackness of an African beauty of our time, but a dull, muddy colour. She has but one eye and a loose-lipped, toothless mouth. Her body lacks all symmetry of form, and even from this distance we can smell her breath and body odour. Through the stone time door, we can see a more favourable landscape, but before we can go through we must pay toll. The cost of entry is a kiss for its guardian. If you cannot or will not give this toll, return to the temple. You can go no further until this price is paid. Sooner or later you must pass her. When the toll has been paid, we pass through the gate into the next time zone. Here the earth is still primitive, but much has changed in the forms of animal and plant life. The trees are more like those we know in our own time. Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon man has now appeared, and is already shaping the land and his own destiny. We move across flat grassland, seeing small horse-like creatures that scatter at our approach. Ahead is a rough, winding track that enters a dense woodland area. It's dark now, and we see far ahead of us. We find ourselves looking down on a small group of Stone Age people, about a dozen, including several old people, and children ranging from an infant in arms to about 7 years. There are 2 younger women and 3 adult men, one of whom is obviously the leader. They're roasting some meat over a fire, and judging by the sounds, it's a long time since they've eaten so well. A boy of about 6 is too hungry to wait. He tries to grab a hanging leg, but once the leader, with a scream of rage, deals him a blow across the head that sends him spinning across the fire and into a huddled sprawl on the other side. He lies still, his head bleeding. The mother leaps to the defence of her child, biting and scratching, but to no avail. The greater strength of the male easily defeats her, and she slinks away to gather up the unconscious boy, licking the blood from the deep cut on his head. When the meat is cooked, the hunters get first choice, then the 2 women, the children, and the old last of all. The mother grabs her piece and attacks it with her teeth. She's almost finished it when she sees the child stir. She looks from the meat in her hand to the child. Back and forth go her eyes, and her dim thoughts try to make patterns out of the pictures in her mind. Slowly it falls into place, and hungry as she is, she takes the meat to the child, rubbing the juices on his mouth and encouraging him to suck at them. The child, groggy but conscious, chews the comforting food, then drifts off to sleep again. The hunter, now replete, looks for further comfort and pulls the woman away from the child into the shadows. He couples briefly with her before returning to the fire. She creeps quietly back to the child and cuddles him close to her. We move away and leave them to dream of successful hunts and full bellies. As we go through the trees, the sky lightens, and soon it is daylight. We come to a small primitive village where the houses are made from sun-baked brick and straw. In the centre of the village stands a single upright stone shaped into a phallus. Its surface is dark with stains. We do not care to think what made them. At the other end of the village, a group of men are sacrificing a goat. The terrified animal struggles, but its fate is sealed. Though we condemn it, to these people this is as needful as salt or water. Without the gods' help, their crops will not grow, their animals will not increase, and their women will be barren. We cannot interfere. We must remain apart, as we did on the 31st path. Remember this, no sacrifice is ever in vain. This does not make it any easier to watch or to bear, but we can take the pain and fear from the animal by invoking the help of Sandalphon. We see the goat slump and stop struggling. Its eyes close peacefully, and it does not shudder when the knife takes its life. We've helped this much. One of the hardest things to learn is not to interfere with things we see on the path unless we are told to do so. This is a rule that must be obeyed, no matter how hard we may find it. The blood is caught in a bowl by the women and taken to the stone and poured over it. To our modern eyes and feelings, this is a terrible thing. But if we are to appreciate the change in man's way of worshipping his gods, we must not be afraid to face such things. We cannot agree with them, but this is how it was. Having made their sacrifice, the women leave, and the men gather to perform the next part of the ritual. We must also continue our journey. The forest thins out and becomes more landscaped. We come to a river in full flood, rushing towards the sea. A stone bridge crosses it, and we stand there watching two golden carp swimming lazily in the rushing waters. On the other side there is a wooden gate leading into a garden of flowers, mainly roses of every shade. The scent is almost overwhelming. We walk through the garden of Aphrodite with delight. The trees are full of singing birds, and small animals of every kind scurry about in freedom. In the still air, we hear a sweet piping. The tune calls to us, tugging at the heartstrings and entwining itself in mind and spirit. It conjures pictures of wood and shore, mountain and valley. In it we hear the voices of those we love and are loved by. We begin to follow the sound. As if drawn by strings, we walk in a dream, and from the garden we are joined and followed by animals and birds of every kind, all in their pairs, male and female. This path we take has statues on each side, lovers every one of them. Eros and Psyche, Romeo and Juliet, Heloise and Abelard, Dante and Beatrice, Antony and Cleopatra. All the lovers of history and literature are here. Ahead is a temple of white stone, and around it a cloud of white doves, and two great leopards lie sunning themselves on the steps. Also seated on the steps is the piper. The bronzed torso gleams in the sun. The amber eyes shine with amusement at our stunned faces. The broad sweep of the curved horns, and the sprawl of shaggy limbs at ease on the sun-warmed steps, as well as the reverence of the silent animals for their friend and protector, tells us that we are in the presence of great Pan. The pipes lie idle in his hands, just falling from the parted sensual lips, now smiling in delight. He rises to his full height, stretching and yawning, leaving us in no doubt as to his rightful claim to be the god of fertility. From the temple there comes a woman, but such a woman as mortal eyes seldom see. The goddess of love and beauty herself graces her garden. A cloud of honey gold hair falls to her knees. Her eyes shine softly, and her lips invite kisses, and get one right away from the goat-foot god. Her naked body is the perfection of womanhood. Her very presence beguiles the heart of every man, and makes each woman a temple in her honour. The animals crowd around the godlike pair, pressing close to feel the touch of a hand or receive a word of praise. Her voice has the same quality of the pipes, drawing us to her side that we too may feel her hand in blessing upon us. Without her there would be no joy, no love, no new life to bless the earth. Flower and tree, animal and bird, insect and fish, all must have her blessing if they are to create their kind. Love and joy in loving is a gift to all life on earth. Pan takes the lady's hand and draws her to the door of the temple. They pause and smile at the assembly, then turn and pass within. We start to make our way back down the path, but the animals remain, fixed and silent, looking at the closed door, waiting as if for some signal. We pass the statues and wend our way through the scented garden to the wooden gate. As we reach it, we hear from the distant temple a woman's cry of love. It breaks the spell, and the creatures melt away into the trees, and the garden is silent and empty. We cross the river and make our way back to the village. But things have changed here. The stone phallus has been replaced by the statue of a man and a woman entwined, no longer stained. The stone is covered with fruit and flowers instead. A woman milks a contented goat, and a small kid huts gently at her hand and receives a caress. Rejoicing in this more gentle worship of the life force, we hurry on. The sky turns dark, and in the moonlight we come to the sleeping Stone Age tribe. The hunter stands on guard, watching over his small group. The little boy sleeping by his mother's side whimpers in his sleep, his head still aching. The hunter moves towards him and squats down beside the child. For a moment he struggles with some inner turmoil. Then, with a clumsy gesture of comfort, he passes his hand over the child's hair. It wakes. For a moment they stare at each other, feeling something new entering their lives and consciousness. Slowly, painfully, not understanding that he's making a small piece of history, the hunter smiles. He lifts the child into his arms, as he has seen the female do, and carries him to the fire. They sit in warm companionship together, the child safe and warm within his father's arms. A new form of love has come into the world. We leave them enjoying their newfound closeness and continue. In the dawn light, we see ahead the stone gate, and beyond it the primeval jungle. We also see the black Isis waiting for us. We hurry through the time gate, and the figure shimmers and dissolves. In quick succession we see the Stone Age female, a woman of the village, a Middle Eastern girl in Bedouin finery, a young Jewish woman with a coined headdress, a satin black Nubian, proud of carriage, and a Chinese bride in her wedding dress. Womanhood, in all its forms, is put before us, and finally the beauteous Aphrodite herself stands there, arms held out to welcome us, and to give back the kiss of love we gave to her when she was ugly and repulsive. Then she is gone. We hurry through the jungle to find the tower curtain waiting for us, hung between two of the fern-like trees. Dimly behind and through it we can see the flashing forms of the Ishim, and we pass through into the temple. The sparks crowd around us as if drinking in the residue of Aphrodite's presence. Sandalphon seals the door, then draws us to stand before the altar. There is a sudden ripple of pipes and a great laugh from behind us, making us whirl in surprise. Pan stands there, hooves firmly planted apart, head thrown back, horns gleaming in the altar light. Now silent, he passes a hand over our heads, in the same gesture of the Stone Age Father, but with so much more understanding of our needs, both spiritual and physical. The temple fades slowly away.